Early in 3 morning in Chicago, the wind from Lake Michigan swept down Michigan Avenue, carrying a skin-cutting chill. The skyscrapers were still shrouded in mist, the yellowed streetlights reflecting off the rain-soaked pavement from the night before. In a small fifth-floor apartment in the South Side, Nia Carter stood before the mirror, eyeing the wine-colored blazer she had pressed the night before. The faint light from the window fell across her face, deep brown eyes, resolute yet hiding a trace of anxiety. A set of documents was neatly clipped inside a leather folder on the table. On top lay a letter of recommendation from her college professor, the signature still fresh. Beside it sat a red L train ticket, her ride to the Loop, where the glass tower of Harrington and Cole stood waiting. Her phone buzzed. A message from her grandmother, the woman who had raised her since she was 6. Nia, remember this, sweetheart. Opportunity is precious, but your heart is even more so. Nia smiled and typed a single word in reply. Yes. She slipped the documents into her bag, shrugged on her overcoat, and paused for a second before stepping out, inhaling deeply as if to lock away the nerves inside. Outside, the sound of the L train carried from afar, mixing with the whistling wind between the empty streets. Nia didn't know that in just a few hours, her grandmother's words would become the guiding star for a decision that would change her life forever. Nia hurried into the 35th Bronzeville station, where the fluorescent lights cast a cold glow on the damp tiles. The wind funneled through the station's corridors, blending with the screech of train wheels on the tracks into a sharp, tense sound. When the Red Line L train pulled in, Nia slipped into a car with only a few passengers. She sat by the window, keeping her folder close to her side to protect it from the condensation on the glass. Across from her sat a man of about 55, his salt and pepper hair neatly combed, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit and gleaming leather shoes. On the left lapel of his jacket was a small gold pin, engraved with the logo H.C. Harrington and Cole. Nia's heart gave an involuntary thump. He was on the phone, his voice deep yet sharp as a blade. Even 1 minute late is failure. I want everything perfect before I arrive. Nia quietly observed him. His posture was straight-backed, his gaze fixed forward, and he was paying no attention to those around him. He was the image of the influential figures she'd read about in finance magazines: absolute discipline, no tolerance for delay. When the train stopped at Roosevelt, the man glanced at his watch, frowned slightly, and spoke rapidly. When their eyes briefly met, Nia saw no warmth there, only the look of someone accustomed to judging others in seconds. As the train approached Monroe, he stood, picked up his expensive leather briefcase, and stepped off without a backward glance. The lingering scent of warm, expensive cologne hung in the air. Nia breathed in deeply, feeling a mix of awe and curiosity, and somewhere, a vague sense that this man would reappear in her story. Nia exited Monroe Station into the plaza surrounded by the gleaming towers of the Loop. Above, the once merely overcast sky gathered into heavy black clouds. The wind shifted abruptly, funneling through narrow streets with a damp, cutting chill. She had just pulled her overcoat collar higher when the rattle began, hailstones the size of coins pelting down, bouncing hard on sidewalks and car roofs. The streets erupted into chaos, people rushed into shops for cover, and taxis stopped suddenly in the middle of traffic. Nia opened her umbrella, but a strong gust snapped its frame within seconds, flipping the fabric inside out like a torn wing. She stumbled toward the curb, her heels slipping on wet stone. Ahead, she spotted a taxi pulling over, its for-hire sign glowing. She raised her hand. But at the exact moment, from the opposite side of the street, the same navy-suited man from the L train rushed in, opened the door, and slid into the back seat before she could reach it. The car sped away, leaving Nia standing in the hail. She bit her lip, forcing herself to stay calm. There was no time to find another cab. Hugging her folder, she ran, shielding her face from the icy pellets. But a sudden slip on a water-filled pothole sent her to her knees, her phone flying into a black puddle at the curb. When she retrieved it, the screen was already dead. The ink on her folder cover began to bleed into ugly gray smears. In the distance, the glass tower of Harrington and Cole shimmered faintly through the hail, close, yet feeling a world away. Nia turned onto Dearborn Street, just a few blocks from Harrington and Cole. Her heart pounded from running through the hail or the ticking clock. Then came a clunk. Clunk. From across the street. A sleek black Lincoln sat crooked at the curb, its front right tire flat. Beside it was an older man in his 70s, silver hair soaked, hands trembling, struggling with a jack. Hailstones bounced off his wool overcoat, leaving icy white marks. People passed by without stopping. Some glanced, then quickly hurried away from the storm. Nia froze. The glow of the Harrington Cole sign faintly appeared at the end of the street, beckoning her forward. But her grandmother's morning words rang clearly in her mind. Opportunity is precious, but your heart is even more so. She dashed across the street, kneeling beside the man. Let me help you, won't finish in time otherwise. The man looked up, his pale blue eyes filled with surprise and a hint of caution. You have more important things to do. Nia gripped her bag strap and shook her head. Nothing's more important than helping someone right now. Without another word, she pulled off her gloves, bent down, and turned the jack, changing the tire as hail beat against her neck and shoulders. The man's gaze softened, the suspicion replaced by a quiet, studying silence. 7 minutes later, the new tire was in place. He adjusted his coat, gave a slight nod, and smiled a smile carrying something more profound than a simple thank you. When Nia straightened, hail water streamed from her hair down her shoulders, freezing to the bone. The man extended his hand, his voice hoarse but clear. I'm Leonard Cole, thank you. The name made Nia pause. Cole is the same as the founder of Harrington Cole, but there was no time to ask. He gave a slight nod, stepped into the Lincoln, and it rolled slowly away into the white curtain of hail. Nia checked her watch. Her heart sank. She was over 15 minutes late for her interview. She ran, her heels catching repeatedly on the slick pavement. By the time she reached the gleaming lobby of the glass tower, her breathing was ragged. The polished brass plaque reading Harrington Cole seemed to look down coldly at her. Behind the desk, Dana Brooks' blonde hair in a high bun glanced at the clock, then at Nia's drenched coat, messy hair, and dripping bag. Miss Carter? Yes. You're 21 minutes late. Per policy, your interview has been canceled. I'm sorry, but there are no exceptions. Nia opened her mouth to explain, but Dana's gaze had already returned to her computer screen, as though Nia no longer existed. A polite security guard gestured toward the exit. The revolving door closed behind her, hail still pounding Michigan Avenue. But for Nia, the chill no longer came from the weather. It went from the feeling of having lost everything because she stopped at a crossroads. The Southside apartment was dark when Nia returned. She shut the door, letting her soaked bag drop onto a chair, the wine-colored blazer heavy with water. The folder was warped, the blue ink bleeding into ugly gray streaks. She sat by the window at the small kitchen table, looking out at Chicago's rainless but still gray sky. The dim streetlights glowed against the stained glass, illuminating her face, tired and empty. Her phone buzzed. Her grandmother's voice was warm, expectant. How did it go, Nia? Did you do it? Nia swallowed hard, keeping her tone steady. It's fine. I'm waiting to hear back. Her grandmother chuckled softly, believing the answer. Nia pressed her lips together, staring at her hands, still red from gripping the jack in the hall. In her mind, the question pricked like a needle. If I'd walked past him, would I be sitting in that interview room now? There was no answer, only the steady tick of the wall clock, reminding her that time had passed, and the opportunity for now was gone. She turned off the light and lay on the sofa, but sleep never came. In the dark, the pale blue eyes of the man on Dearborn Street returned, calm, mysterious, and seemingly more than just someone in need. The next morning, pale sunlight slipped through the curtains, glinting on the dried water stains from last night's overcoat. Nia had just poured a cup of black coffee when her phone rang an unfamiliar loop number. She hesitated for a second before answering. Hello, this is Nia Carter. A clear, professional female voice came through. Good morning, Miss Carter. I'm Marissa Lee, executive assistant to Mr. Leonard Cole. He would like to meet with you privately today at 2 p.m. in his office on the 72nd floor of Harrington Cole. Nia froze, her heart pounding like a drum. I'm sorry, Mr. Cole? Leonard Cole? The man from yesterday? Marissa chuckled lightly. Yes. He said to make sure you received this invitation. When the call ended, Nia stood still, phone in hand, emotions surging. Questions crowded in. Why did he want to see her? Was this a second chance? Or simply a thank you? Not willing to risk anything, Nia immediately pulled out a small suitcase, took a spare business outfit, and pressed every crease. A fresh set of documents was printed and clipped neatly into a leather folder. Every movement was precise, focused this time. She would walk into that tower in her best form. But deep down, she knew this was no longer just an interview. Something else, something bigger, awaited on the 72nd floor. At 2 p.m., the midday sun poured over the loop, making the glass buildings blaze with reflection. Nia stepped out of Washington, Wabash Station, her heels clicking steadily on the sidewalk. No hail, no soaked coat today, everything was crisp and in place. The Harrington Cole tower loomed ahead, its glass facade reflecting the blue sky. As Nia entered the lobby, her footsteps echoed against the marble floor. Behind the reception desk, Dana Brooks looked up. This time, instead of the cold stare, she offered a faint smile. "Welcome, Miss Carter. Mr. Cole is expecting you. Here's your guest pass. Elevator 4 will take you to the 72nd floor." Nia accepted the pass with a nod of thanks. The elevator doors opened to walnut-paneled walls and warm golden lighting from above. The numbers on the panel ticked upward, and Nia could feel her heartbeat with each floor. The doors opened to a carpeted charcoal gray hallway. Large abstract paintings lined the walls, with lush green plants beside windows overlooking all of Chicago. The air carried the scent of oak mingled with a trace of mint. Marissa Lee appeared, smiling brightly, yet professionally. "Miss Carter, please follow me. Mr. Cole has been looking forward to this meeting." As Nia followed, each step seemed to draw her closer to a room and a new turning point in her life. Marissa knocked softly on the walnut door, pushing it open for Nia to enter. The spacious office was awash in natural light from a whole wall of windows, where the deep blue of Lake Michigan stretched to the horizon. In the center, Leonard Cole stood with his back to the door, hands clasped behind him, his stance commanding yet calm. He turned, the pale blue eyes from Dearborn Street, now brighter, warmer. "Nia Carter, at last, we meet without the hailstorm." Then, Nia gave a small smile, though curiosity flickered in her gaze. Leonard gestured for her to sit, then personally poured her a cup of hot tea, sliding it across the desk. "I know you prepared thoroughly for your interview yesterday, but you gave that up to help an older man change a tire. In this city, that's rarer than diamonds." Nia lowered her head slightly. "I only did what anyone should do." Leonard studied her. "Wrong. Not everyone would. I've led Harrington Cole for over 3 decades and met thousands of candidates. Your resume is strong, but what made me call you here is something no resume can show: courage and kindness." He paused, then spoke each word with clarity. "I don't want you as an analyst, as you applied for. I want you to be my executive assistant." All of yesterday's exhaustion and disappointment seemed to dissolve at that moment. This wasn't just a job, it was a door opening straight into the heart of power she had never dared to dream of. Nia sat silently momentarily, feeling the 72nd floor office close in around her. Leonard Cole's words still echoed in her mind, mingling with the rush of her heartbeat. She took a deep breath, meeting his gaze with clear, steady eyes. "I don't know if I'm worthy yet, but I promise I'll give everything I have to live up to your trust." Leonard smiled, came around the desk, and laid a steady hand on her shoulder. "I'm not choosing you because you're ready, Nia. I'm choosing you because I believe you will be ready. From today, welcome to Harrington Cole and the real challenge of your life." Their handshake was firm, like an unspoken pact. Leaving the tower, Nia stepped onto a sunlit Michigan Avenue. The crowd bustled, traffic streamed past, but everything seemed warmer, more alive. She pulled out her phone and called her grandmother. "Grandma, the old man from yesterday was Leonard Cole, and I just accepted a job as his executive assistant." Her grandmother's voice trembled over the line. "I'm proud you succeeded, but even prouder you kept your heart." That evening, in her small South Side apartment, Nia opened her worn brown leather notebook and wrote a single line. "The value of success is not in how quickly we reach the end, but in the road we take and the people we're willing to stop for along the way." She set down her pen, gazing out the window. The lights of Chicago sparkled like a sky full of stars, and for Nia, it was her new sky.